Hi, it's Scott Bassett with Understanding Narcissists, and today I just want to talk a little bit about the narcissist stare of intimidation, threat, and sort of all of that is meant to convey to you just through the use of their eyes. So, narcissists are, in a sense, they're masters of body language and conveying messages and emotions and feelings to you subliminally through how they carry themselves, how they act, how they stand, and how they look at you. Size and little gestures and other things mean a whole heck of a lot around a narcissist, and they sort of build these responses in you over time through conditioning, through making you afraid of what they're going to do next, by sending you these little signals about, or really through their physical gestures and everything. There's even more to it than that, but today I want to focus in on their eyes, because they're usually making a sort of blank, aggressive, reptilian eye contact with you. Under most circumstances, you want to maintain eye contact with them almost all the time. And you can have a friendly or gentle nature to your eye contact as well, kind of letting their whole aggression kind of go over your head a little bit, like they're not doing anything weird, even though they tend to look at you in an intimidating, really emotionally threatening fashion. Making eye contact with them sort of flips it back at them, because they want the chase. They want you to run, and they want to be the predator. That's how they imagine themselves. And so when you look back at them and you don't have much of a problem, this is generally not seen as a challenge, because you're not really doing anything. You're not questioning them. You can still be going along with whatever their whole deal is, whatever their problem is that day. You can easily accommodate them just by treating them completely like they're completely normal, even though what they're doing is pretty weird and obviously aggressive. They are cowards deep down, bullies, I guess. And so the whole notion that you have to stand up to a narcissist in a direct or overt fashion, that's not always the case. I see that a lot kind of floating around the internet now lately. Certain things where you, I don't want to say provoke, but defend yourself against a narcissist in a way that's very transparent. That can be really good sometimes. And I don't mind going into that at another time in another video or something. But as a general course of action, I like to do the foundation of the groundwork is changing how you're handling everything in a way that's not overt or direct, because they're not overt or direct, and nothing you do is going to bring everything out into the open. You're not going to completely expose them, even in those kind of intimate, private settings where you're alone with them in your home, which is their favorite, because that's where they feel like the king or queen of their environment. Making eye contact with them it keeps the ball from rolling. Doesn't give them momentum. It sort of immediately deflates everything they've got going on, because they want to feel like they're in a superior position. And when you address them in a normal fashion, even though they're being intimidating, because everything you do affects them, and how they feel really relies upon your reaction, acting like they're intimidating, or they're really smart, or they're right about everything. All that stuff makes your fear makes all their fantasies real. And so if you don't present it and you just address them normally, then none of those things can materialize. And so staring back at them is a good thing. Looking at them when they're not looking at you can be a really good thing. You're not intimidating them, you're not threatening them, but by your very nature, because you're not reacting to them as a threat, you're not treating them as a danger, even though they are, I understand, but I'll get to that in a second. that is the most damaging thing you can do. That takes the wind out of their sails. That makes them feel weaker. And you're not saying or doing anything. So maintaining eye contact with them for the most part is a good thing. If they get physically violent or aggressive, that I consider to be, that's an emergency type situation. So you need to do whatever you have to help yourself get away from them, call 911, whatever the case may be. So I understand that narcissists are dangerous, and I can't just give you a nice, clean collection of rules that makes them safe. They're never safe. But what I'm trying to do is make you safer. And for the most part, if they're going to hurt you in any way, looking away from them and being terrified, okay, like a little puppy, is not going to help you. It's not. At some point, they're going to explode. They're going to overreact. They're going to have their moment. My experience has been overwhelmingly that when they're not being a physical threat or they're not totally out of control, responding to them in this way is a good idea. And so I am going to recommend that you try that and not let these surface level type games where you have to do all these things as soon as the narcissist walks in the room or looks at you or makes you feel a certain way and you're supposed to react. They don't bring those things up directly because they can't, because that would be really essentially admitting that they're a narcissist. So they keep these things below the surface, which means they can't talk about them. Well, if you treat them below the surface like they're not happening, that forces their hand, and they have to do something. They have to do something else. It corners them in effect. Now, addressing the fact that you think, oh, you're provoking them by running and hiding, by not making eye contact, by submitting to them all the time, that is also a provocation. That's an invitation for more trouble. And so I'm trying to ride a fine line that I found is very helpful. And so just remember that you don't have to play every single game they throw your way. You don't have to address everything in a direct fashion either. So you don't have to pretend like nothing's going on with them. But you're going to be uncomfortable around them all the time, either trying to avoid them, comply with everything they do. That's not going to work. But you also don't have to have a direct confrontation with them where you're calling them a narcissist, which you should really never do, or just trying to point out all the things they're doing in those little games. It's not going to help you. But there is wiggle room in space in between that makes things harder for them without directly provoking them, while at the same time not triggering a more ferocious attack. And so that's what we're driving for here. It can be a difficult thing, but I think you'll find there's some wiggle room. It's never going to be perfect because they're nuts, but this is something that'll maybe get you started and thinking a little differently about them. And instead of focusing on what you can do to change them or hope that you can reach some kind of accommodation or agreement with them, this allows you to actually defend yourself somewhat and not have to be their utter victim all the time. So as usual, I think I talked a little bit too much, but I hope you get what I was saying and that this helps you in the future. Thank you for watching.